This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Erin asks me about the missing Lego piece and making dumplings.
Woo! I want to know who Jess is. This is what an Erin sounds like. Did I do this right? It's really hard doing this. Oh,
no,
thank you.
You did it just right. Hi, this is Jess.
This
You're
is
missing something obvious.
We don't have a Joey.
No
Where is our
Joey.
Joey?
He's
It's very hard
gone.
without Joseph.
He's gone for now. A
He
temporary hiatus unexpectedly for his civic duty.
And I imagine that he will have a lot to share when he comes back about jury duty and what it's like to serve.
Or like nothing, because maybe it's all confidential. I don't know how it works. One of my personality traits is that I'm desperate to do jury duty, and and I don't know if it actually works the way I think it would in my mind. But we'll have to find out or not.
We'll have to figure it out. We'll see. I'm hopeful that your dreams come true. And that's just true in general, Jess. So we'll throw that one on the pile too. It's true.
Thanks.
It's true.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Oh. So I guess this is usually the point where we ask, do we have any housekeeping? But the answer is
no.
Nah. So no. Rate, review, subscribe. Legit for real. Like, come on. Because why not? Why not? Yeah. Yeah. So I believe this is the time in the show that we start to actually talk about what we're going to talk about. Is that right, Jess?
Yes. And I'm excited that we have a double Erin topic day today.
Oh.
That should be like a special segment, but I am so excited for all you have to bring to us.
I am super excited too. And I've also been in my own erratic hiatus. So it is nice to get a little burst of time with all of you here on the recording, and those of your ear holes that are tuned in to this really long rambly moment.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Jess, I think you and Alex definitely know how much I love Lego, and it's, pandemic obsession. It sort of grew.
That's your personality trait. If
It is.
Desperately want to be on jury duty, it's you love Lego.
It is really true. And it's something that like definitely grew during the pandemic and like just sort of blew up then because, what else was I going to do? And I wanted to do something with my hands and sort of revert back to being a child. So anyway, I moved across the country and found out that one of my closest friends is even more obsessed with Lego than I'd even realized. Since we haven't lived in the same city for a cool 8 years. Oh, it was so nice. I go over to his place. There's nothing stronger to bond over than someone's completed Lego collection.
Whoa.
Right? Like you don't.
It's sculptural at that rate. It is.
Yeah, and the nerdery that's within it too, like which sets they choose to build and all of that, and which ones they choose to display is a whole other thing. So he's a incredibly talented photographer and film producer, and also has his setup literally surrounded by all of his Lego creations.
To be clear, for a Lego novice, can you paint a picture of what this is like? Because it's not like just a few pieces here or there, right? This is something serious.
Like just off the top of my head, the number of special edition and limited edition sets that he has that come to mind. He has the Lego Batwing from Batman. He has the Lego life-size Batman skull. He has the recently released Pyramids of Giza set from the architecture group. He has the globe that was just developed, which is the size of like not an actual globe, but
to
scale. It's the Earth. He has that. He has pieces in his kitchen. He has little ships in a bottle in his bathroom. He has like so many pieces. He's got the treehouse. I mean, I love it. And every time that we get new sets, we text each other pictures and like, oh my God, he just started. And this is the segue into our topic today, the Van Gogh Starry Night, which was just released very recently. And it's beautiful and it's so cool. And he texts me and says, oh my goodness, for the first time in my entire Lego obsession, I have a set that is missing a piece.
No.
Unreal. Completely unheard of. Eric Repair would be rolling around in his
Eric repairs.
He's literally
Lego.
He's who we need to call in to fix the Lego situation. And ultimately, he called the 1-800 number, and there's just a very, very limited supply of these pieces. And so he just had this very panicky moment over text with me, which leads to my question of the day, which is, what do you do about the missing Lego piece?
Aaron. First is the complete and utter dread that is unavoidable, right? Because you know that this is a devastating conundrum to find yourself in. And also it's so, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant that sort of it leaves you with a question of now, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, is there any place to is there any recompense I can have? Can someone just send me a single piece of Lego from this undoubtedly thousands of pieces kit? I feel for your friend.
It's so hard, right?
So hard.
And it's also, there's so many little things that come up. Like, literally one of the reasons that we were texting about is because I have tens of thousands of pieces of sets that I had to deconstruct when I moved across the country. So Lego Hogwarts, I had to take the whole thing apart to ship it across the country. I had the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus and the gate. I had to tear that all apart. Like, I had the Saturn V rocket that I had to tear apart to move across the country. So in the back of each booklet that you get, it has a parts list, and that's how you can call them and say, I'm missing unit IUT45. Yeah. So I told him, like, let me know. Like, I have all these deconstructed pieces that I am happy to part with one of them, but this is one of those, like, very unique pieces that, in addition to being exactly, if you don't have it, you don't have it. What do you do?
Yeah.
No, the other thing about this is that, like, when you're building anything with Lego and you're following the instructions, anyone who's done it, especially recently, knows that thing when you've gotten through half the build and then you realize when you're looking at a picture, you're like, there's something not right about this picture and how it matches my model. What's off? Oh my God, I did something wrong on page 2 and I have to now
undo it.
It was my fault and I have to fix it. Oh God,
this is why I'm terrified of knitting. I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but I'm a pretty crafty person. I like doing fussy artistic things in my spare time.
Understatement, yes.
But I really don't. It's not that I even don't like it. It's that I'm scared of knitting, because if you realize 5 rows back, you accidentally slipped, you did something backwards. You're like, all right, well, I guess I'm undoing all of that. And even if I don't know if I have enough confidence to be able to sort of rethread or see, I don't even know the words, get back to a place where I'm at least starting from that point, or, do I have to start from the beginning? I feel like a stage of this feeling, at least in that world, is like self, like you're blaming yourself for getting yourself into this situation, and it just feels bad, which is different than the missing puzzle piece phenomenon, which is what your friend is going through, which is like, this is not my fault, but now I'm in this conundrum. And I think that's where one of the immediate things I think of is how people in a situation like that might misdirect their frustration and anger to the wrong place in search of justice. Like, my piece is missing and therefore I have to find someone to blame, when in all reality, it was a mistake by way of probably a robot somewhere sorting, like the margin of error that whatever robot was counting the pieces, just it got confused. But being mad at like the person you call or the person you email upset about your missing piece is not necessarily the best way to justice.
Not at all. And actually, I'm very sensitive to this because my mom was on the phone lines when she was working as a health insurance person. So like when you call in and you have an issue with your claim or whatever, she was the person who would answer the phone. And like it was a really, really hard job because you've got some people, like most people who are calling that number are in a particularly intense moment of their lives. Like economically, health-wise, like something scary is going on. It's not so often that it's just like you're getting a crown filled or something. I don't know. Sometimes it is. And so it's more intense, but also just like the armor that she already had built up before she had that job became like, I don't know, like 80 feet deep. I don't know how to describe armor strength. So we're going to go with depth.
Impermeable.
There it is. And it's really, I mean, she would even talk about how like there are times when people were making mountains out of molehills, she would put her phone on mute, take the headset off, walk away and get water, and then come back to her station because she knew that people were
they'll still be talking. Yeah. They'll be talking by the time she's back.
All the time the soliloquies were going on. But I think there's this thing of like when is something too small to call about, like a Lego piece? Like when at what point do you take on the petty? At what point do you like do that because it just isn't petty to you? Or
see, this is where I have to tell you about the story of me and my city bike, because it was a situation where I decided to take on the pursuit, knowing that I may be the one who loses out even more by doing so. This happened about a week ago where I was biking in the how do you describe it? It's like the rental system, the city bike rental system that is called City Bike in New York, for those who do not live here. And you get 45 minutes, if you remember, of free ride before they start charging you by the minute thereafter. But if you come to a dock of bikes that is full, so you can't park your bike there, you can go to the little station and you can get an extra 15 minutes free so that you can bike around to find another dock. I passed by a full dock with people trying to get tickets or get extra time standing at the machine. And so I just made the call as I was biking that I would, as quickly as possible, try to make my way to the next dock. And I wouldn't stop to try to get the extra top up. And when I finally find a dock that's available, I park my bike and I get a notification on my phone that it's charged me for, truly, it's like 62 seconds of overage. So whatever the cost is, like $1. It's something very small. But to me, I'm thinking, that just, if I had waited at the original dock in that line behind those other people, I still might not have made it in time. And I wanted to minimize the amount of additional overage that I was racking up. They've got to understand, right? Like, it's, even though it's $1, I feel like I should call and try to right this wrong, which is exactly what I do. But you know what you're signing up for when you call a customer service line, right? Like, who knows how long you'll be put on hold, and if the person you're going to talk to has agency to right the wrong, you're hoping that they will. And I'm crossing my fingers and I'm making the call because at the end of the day, I'm like, the justice is worth it. I am willing to take the risk of having this be a waste of my time in addition to the $1, just in the case that it is that it can right this moral wrong.
I love it.
And you know what? Not the moral of the story, because I don't think this always works, but I will say the upshot was that it took not but 2 minutes for this lovely gentleman, Frank, to get on the phone. And I told him what happened. And he was like, for sure, we'll refund you the money. And he didn't say anything about, you're insane for wasting my time on this problem. And he took care of it. And it may have been one of the more seamless customer service calls that I've had, which hopefully should outweigh all of the many non-seamless customer service calls that I've had. But, you know, for something that's actually important. But anyway, it just got me wondering about, was it really worth it? Even though it worked out, was that the right thing to do? Was it right to take his time to refund me $1?
Would one say that you were wondering whether you should have taken umbrage with the overage? I'm just one might have.
Should I have taken umbrage with the overage?
I think it's really fun to say. I think that oh my goodness, the things that come to mind. I mean, one thing that is bothersome to me, I think, is that regardless of whether or not something, like there is a contract that we are all a part of with businesses. There's a service that is offered, and when said service is like not right, in theory we're signing a contract, but that contract has shifted over time. It used to be like, yeah, the customer is always right, that sort of phrase. The customer is not always right. There are a lot of customers who are trash.
Sometimes the customer is rude. The customer is sometimes terrible. Maybe I am one of them, is really my fear.
And I think that I think those who are sensitive worry about gaming the system rather than just playing by the rules. And I think that is like, I think that that's like a sign of maybe like being a good person. Like just, you know, like this is the way that it should be. Let me do the things the way that they should be, you know, back and forth and back and forth. So the other thing that I wonder about, and that's a little bit of a, you know, question mark, is really who gets demonized when they complain? Or when like something is leveraged. Because I think, first of all, the entire Karenism, you know, just to take it back there for a minute, I think we had a whole episode on like the not so veiled misogyny that it's at the heart of this mythology of Karen and whatnot. But this idea that like we as a society cast women who stand up fundamentally as problems or irritants or, you know, challenges is a problem in situations like this. Like anyone deserves to not have silly charges thrown on their card. And then there's just the fungibility of money. Like $1 is $1. Like, you know, if that dollar is gone, that dollar is not coming back. And money should be fought for. Like, I'm sorry, you are an organization that is dealing with oodles and oodles and oodles of money in different ways, shapes, and forms. Like, $1 to me means a lot more than $1 to you, and I'm gonna make sure that I have that dollar, just 100%. Like,
yeah, and at the end of the day, too, I think for the way I think about it is also the mindset that you're approaching it in. Like, I knew that I was risking this being an additional incremental waste of my time, and also I knew that whoever I'm talking to is like, if they don't understand the plight, it's really not their fault or their problem. Like, I gave it a shot and here we are. And I think that mindset is a lot better than the like, I want to right an injustice, but it is so insignificant. It's this one small piece that, you know, like how big of a deal is it for me to make, to take umbrage with this overage? So why direct any disproportionate amount of passion and emotion to the matter is like the other thing. I'm just like, well, it would be great, but also really not a big deal. And I hope for your help. Let me know if there's anything you can do to help me out.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like you are one, or we, like those who are calling, are ones of thousands of people who are doing the same thing for nefarious and good intent, right? So the people that are on the other end of that line, they can tell pretty quickly when someone is aware and self-aware of like, oh, this is literally just like, they're fine. Like, and I will say this is a human thing. And that's the other thing that my mom always taught me as a result of her being on the line.
Yeah.
Number one, write down people's name when they say, hello, I'm so-and-so at this place and I'm here to help you, so that you can say their name back to them, because they're a person. They're not a machine. Mention their humanity. And the second thing she always said is never raise your voice. And unfortunately, she did that to me when I was a kid too. It's the whole like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, like that whole thing.
Oh, it's so powerful.
It's so powerful.
Dang it, Ma.
And
How did she know?
How did she know? And if you just pull from a place of, I'm just not happy, which is my mom's favorite customer service line of all time. She always starts it with, Stacy, I'm just not happy. This thing happened and I really think this shouldn't have happened. Is there anything you can do to help me? It's very that. It's very that. Even when she is like pissed, that's the angle. And, you get more things with sugar than shit. I don't remember exactly what the phrase is, but, that turn of phrase.
And again, it can't be emphasized enough that we're talking about the small things. I do think the dynamic changes when it's something actually significant or like something is seriously on the line. I think that makes it really hard for people it makes it harder to direct justice in the right way and control your feelings and all of that stuff when you're like, there is a lot of money on the line, not just $1, or there's like a lot, like I am concerned about this person I am in the presence of, like I need help. So I do want to make sure that all of this is contextualized in the fact that we're talking about like the missing Lego piece, which to your friend's credit, I don't want to diminish the importance of the missing Lego piece. It is critical.
It is. And
to like me in the sense of like the dollar was critical to me.
Right. And I would also say that what's interesting about this is that I believe that this piece was a decorative piece, essentially, as opposed to a functionally necessary
structural
piece.
I see. Yeah.
Yes. Because now I've done my kits. When I did the Imperial Star Destroyer a couple of years ago, it's huge. I don't even like Star Wars. I just wanted to build something huge. And
we'll come back to that topic later.
We will. There was one piece missing. I definitely was missing one piece. And it was like I think it's a 60,000 piece set or something like that. So to have one piece missing in my box of 60,000 pieces, and it's only decorative, like it was fine. No one was looking at it, inspecting it and saying, oh my goodness, that one angular gray stud is not there. It's a very hard build because the inside is like multicolored Technic, but everything on the outside is just gray. So like literally it's all the same. I have boxes of gray Legos now. It's insane.
Yeah. It's like, to me, cause I'm more familiar with puzzles. It's like one of those monochrome puzzles where all the pieces are the same shape and it's all the same color. And you're like, well, hope this works out. So does this take us to, Jess's pita corner or Jess's tortilla corner? Or just as I'm just trying different types of wraps. So we're just trying to wrap it up. I haven't done
that joke in a while. We're just wrapping it up. Yeah. So what did we learn?
I think what we learned is when you find yourself with the equivalent of a missing Lego piece, the first step is acknowledging that it's devastating because even something small can be terrible for you. And that's hard. And I'm sorry that happened to you because it's not fair. But the second point is probably to lower your expectations before pursuing any justice because of the imbalance in significance. Even if it's important to you, it may be really hard to rectify in the broader world of things. And it's up to you to decide, what do you want to do about that? And will you be able to accept the fact that this justice just may not be righted? I personally want to know about what happened to your friend's decorative Lego piece and if they were ever able to replace it. But, this world is a tricky place full of imperfections.
I feel like this is going to cause some spicy takes from folks. I don't know why. But if you have thoughts about this, you email us at, what is our email address?
Yeah. Also, I don't think we're wrong, but maybe we're wrong.
Could be.
Are we
Could
wrong?
be.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's why people should write us. You should write us. You should tell us we're wrong. This could be opening a whole interesting conversation.
So send that to, what is our email address?
criticalnonsense@sylvain.co. You can also go to our website, thisisnonsense.com.
Genuinely, that was not me trying to get us to plug. I couldn't remember, which is not surprising to anyone who's hearing this. Thanks.
It's useful. It's a helpful reminder. Go Justice.
Yes.
Rubber baby bubby bumpers.
That is literally what a rubber baby buggy bumper sounds like in my mind. That's why, like, it's just, that's what it is. So, you know.
Wait, is it a rubber baby buggy bumper?
Oh, I always thought it was a rubber baby buggy bumper.
Buggy bumper.
Which I've never thought really in detail does not make any sense
but
at all.
It could be the rubber bumper of a baby buggy. And
could
when
be,
you think of
and
it that way,
mm-hmm.
that's an option. Or it's a rubber baby buggy bumper.
Right. Like, so I imagine that's like a 1940s doll that looks like the Michelin Man and is just like, I don't know, like kind of like a basketball just bouncing around buggies. Like that's literally just boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
You know, I don't know.
The classic alternative option.
I'm really hoping that Alex Contel is using his artistic skills to draw this. I'm just putting it out there. It could be interesting.
Could be a great doodle. We want to see it.
We love them. So Jess, I do have a second.
Great.
Cool. So my sister-in-law was in town last weekend and she and her husband made just a wildly delicious meal. They made mapo tofu, super spicy with Szechuan peppers. And I just freaking love, like numb me up like I'm going to the dentist.
The
like I love them. Yes. So good. They made that. They made some bok choy, and then they also made dumplings. And of course they made like 500 dumplings for 6 people. It was just like we had dumplings for 3 days straight, which was awesome. It was really, really good. And so, you know, we went to 99 Ranch together, which is a grocery store around here that sells really, really good pan Asian ingredients, but really focuses on good Chinese ingredients. And then she got me this James Beard Award winning cookbook for Chinese food and was like,
can we plug it? What is it?
Oh man, I will put a link in the show notes.
Great.
But I cooked with it last night because I was like, you know what? I'm putting this to the test right now. I'm going to make some dumplings. I'm doing this. So I really quickly make like my bowl of pork and Chinese cabbage and all the filling stuff. And then I have the wrappers next to me and I'm like, this is so easy. It's all good. And then I go to make my first dumpling and it's just like, and this is the question that I have, which is, how does this become dumpling?
This question is so good because it focuses on a thing that isn't there.
Yes.
The idea that you have, it feels like the things you need to make something happen, but these invisibles of actually like that last mile to get you from the dumpling supplies to on the plate steaming food. You have, and I think that there are 2 that stand out to me first. One is the invisible wisdom of the dumpling. And that is what are the sort of almost muscle memory type things involved that when someone who knows how to make a dumpling, they just pick it up and they just do it. It just becomes dumpling because they've done this a zillion times before. and maybe they spent time learning with somebody else who had also developed a muscle memory, and that's how they sort of built their own. And that invisible wisdom does not come with the wrapper. It's not there. It kind of has to be imparted to you at some point. And then the second kind of invisible feels like the invisible teamwork that is inherent in making dumplings real. Like, it is one of the things that is designed for a group to create. And then when you sit down with a bowl of what looks like not that much filling and a stack of what doesn't feel like that many wrappers, you suddenly realize, if you're trying to do this alone, which definitely I even once have done, you realize, oh, this is going to take forever.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm going to finish this on my own when in fact the setting, the best setting for those things to become dumpling is a setting of all kinds of folks around the table who are all pitching in to help you. I just think you didn't have what you needed, Aaron.
I think you're right. Those invisible elements were not at play. My invisible elements were very visible. It was a small glass of bourbon and Jurassic World. And I was like, let's just put this on and go. And maybe it was Back to the Future 3. I don't know. I was off yesterday and I had a restorative Aaron day. It was very good and filled with Universal movies, basically. But I think that also the thing that I really felt was the lack of the first item, the lack of any sort of like real training where, like, you know, I can follow a lot of other recipes, even though I don't like following recipes. I like learning techniques and then, you know, playing around with them. But, you know, for the most part, I can just go with it and it's going to be fine. And it's just about plating. That's really the thing. But like, this is something that I have no tradition in whatsoever. Yeah. No one has ever shown me how to make a dumpling. All I have is like the good ones that I've had from really good takeout places. And when it's already a dumpling, you don't see the fact that like how you make the little folds really makes a difference in whether the thing is going to burst in the boiling water, whether it's going to look and have the right shape that you're looking for. Do you want it to be fanned out, or do you want it to be like tied with a little, you know, smushy smush on top? I mean, you know, it was an experience. But I think that the other thing is like, I did recognize that there is such specificity to what a dumpling is. So like when it doesn't look or fully taste like what you have in mind as being this dumpling, it is not a dumpling. It's something else. You've invented something that's dumpling adjacent. You know, and I think that there's like every culture has their dumpling, right? Like tortellini is a dumpling. You know, like empanadas maybe are a fried dumpling. Croquetas, sure, dumpling, like, you know, they're everywhere.
Pierogi, dumpling, they're all dumplings.
Yes, they're all dumplings. And it's sort of a question of like, at what point are you definitely in the type of dumpling that you intended to make? Like, and that requires knowledge. That requires a depth of knowledge, but also just like having some instruction. This might just be that I didn't watch a YouTube video in addition to reading the recipe. I don't know.
Well, I am curious, what was your ambition for your dumpling? What did you want it to be like? Can you even describe it?
Sort of, kind of. Like, I wanted something that was pot stickery. Because I wanted to, like, my whole thing was that I wanted to make the dumplings. I wanted to sear them with a nice, crisp golden crust on the bottom. And then I wanted to cook them, boil them, like, in the skillet, basically. And then I've got Shangqiang, I'm pronouncing it horribly wrong, dark vinegar. It's like the best brand of
black vinegar.
Dark vinegar.
That's what you get. Yeah.
So it's so good. It's like, and there's nothing like that flavor. And then I had my chili oil, and I had some soy sauce, and I wanted the caramelization on the outside. I wanted a nice cooked, juicy, gingery and garlicky dumpling, like in the filling. And then I just wanted to be able to dip in all three, and then just go on all that flavor coaster that makes me so happy. I made it like 50%.
Yeah. What happened? Yeah.
So it was a variety of different dumplings. If you looked at it, you'd be like, I see some croquetas in there. I see some pierogies on that plate. I'm not sure that you got all like the Chinese dumplings that you were looking for. You did some exploration. I think the filling didn't turn out the way that I wanted because I didn't use wild Chinese garlic or wild garlic. Sorry. I used just like not traditional. I used European garlic, and I probably didn't use enough of it. So it was like it needed more flavor within the filling. So I got 50% of the way that I wanted there. They didn't look right. I did get a good golden crust. I was very happy about that. But I did have to use a stainless steel skillet, not the cast iron, because you need a tightly fitting lid to steam them properly. Mm-hmm. And that's got the little. So this has really quickly become a cooking podcast without any instruction, which is terrible. Okay. But if you do decide to go ahead and get Every Grain of Rice Simple Chinese Home Cooking by, let me give you the author, Fuchsia Dunlop. There are 2 different dumpling recipes. Actually, there's like 8 dumpling recipes in there, but there's one that's boiled and one that's like closer to pot stickers. And I hacked it, and I did like sort of an in between. I recommend it. But
hacked it. That's just how it's done.
It is. Well, and this is the thing. This is the gap from getting to a recipe to a dumpling, is that there is no replacement for experience, whether that be transitive experience by the others that help you teach how to do something, or if you just keep messing it up until you eventually get it right. So I've got a lot more dumplings to make and a lot more to try.
Yeah, I totally feel you. And I think it will help to become an apprentice to someone who has dumplinged before, as someone who has been the apprentice to my mom, who taught me how to make dumplings. There are so many things that she left out of the written recipe, which really I was by force. I was like, write it down, like write the ingredients down. Mm-hmm. She's like, it's a little bit of this. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So she wrote it down, and there were basically 2 steps. She was like, fill the dumplings and then like get these ingredients together, fill the dumplings and then cook them. And of course you have to, there's no replacement for the experience of sitting with her and putting them together and then watching the way that she cooked them. How else would I know her smelling the salt technique? Do you know this? When you make your filling, this is a pro tip. When you make your filling for a dumpling, you have to smell the raw mixture. And if it doesn't smell salty, like the way she described it is like when you're when you're walking next to the ocean and you can like smell the saltiness, it should smell like that. And if it doesn't, it's not salty enough and you're going to need to add more. Or something like,
mind blown, because I needed that last night. Probably didn't need more garlic, probably needed more salt.
Another pro tip is the wrapper consistency, the shape and size of the wrapper, especially this is largely if you're making the wrappers yourself, but that will dictate the shape of your dumpling. So if you're not starting with something more standardized, which again, if you're making the wrappers homemade, requires a very special steady hand, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Can I come over, please?
I know, but we can do this. This is the best part.
I would really like to. Yes.
I think the last thing is that once you make them, you have to either cook them or freeze them, because inside is a wet thing sitting in a dry thing, and if you let it sog, you'll create holes, or it basically will start disintegrating your wrapper. So if you want to create structural integrity, you basically have to decide what you're going to do with this thing. But I don't know. I think a bigger takeaway that I'm getting from this topic about how something becomes dumpling is so much more than just making dumplings, and has everything to do with recognizing that having the stuff is not always enough to get to where you envision something should be. Sometimes you just need someone who knows how it's done.
And to be fair too, like this is true of all this might be true of all instruction, right? Like instructions as written will only get you so far because there's never going to be enough detail to make you perfectly replicate something, except if you're a scientist, which is, by the way, my favorite first grade. It's the thing that I remember from first grade science class. Homework one night was to write down like how to do something. And I got a really bad grade. And of course, like I remember first grade getting a bad grade and it stuck with me for all these years.
And it has plagued you.
Yes, but it's like it's really, really annoying. It's really heartbreaking when you get your first bad grade. And
true.
And the whole point of it was he was forcing me to understand the principle, which is you need to be precise and complete in every instruction that you give so that someone can replicate it. Because the whole point is actually not to explain what you did. It's to allow someone to do it exactly the same. And with recipes, especially just online recipes, for example, you're getting further and further away to more and more diluted versions of replicating what everybody in the comment section is saying was great, you know? So take your time, mess it up a few times, get friends to help, get instruction from people who have done it. And you too can go from a pile of ingredients to dumpling, I think.
I think you
Did
can.
I just do... Did
you
I
wrapped it?
did.
I think you did. I think you created your dumpling.
Did I put
wrapped?
Yeah.
You dumpling. You did the dumpling corner.
I did the dumpling corner.
Wrapping.
1 teaspoon of filling, a little bit of water on the rim, and then just you make it look pretty, and then it's done.
And then it's done.
Boop.
I also think as like a bonus that really it's still going to be a dumpling. Even if it doesn't look the way that you want it to, that is, if it's any comfort, just remember, it's still a dumpling. And it's still probably going to be pretty good.
50% of a dumpling was still 100% better than what I had otherwise, which was not food. So that's good.
That's great. When are we having our dumpling party? Maybe next time you're in New York.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I'm excited for this.
Oh my gosh, what if we did it at the office? Okay.
I think that's a very good idea.
Wouldn't that be fun?
But how would we have to get a bunch of hot plates?
We just need like a hot plate, and I have one because every Chinese person who wants to do a hot pot at home kind of has to have.
This is consistent and true.
This is a great idea. Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by your middle finger, which you use to actually get the right amount of water in your dumpling when you put the water around the wrapper and then you tie it, like make it like nice, and you're going to really like use your thumb and your middle finger and really get
barely
brought to you by that.
Got it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'd like to thank, and by we, I mean I would like to thank Joey and Aaron for being our hosts. My special opportunity to thank them every time I'm doing the credits.
Damn it. And that means that I get to take this opportunity to thank you, Jess Vander, executive producer.
No, moving on.
And wonderful human being and warm soul to all, and brilliant strategist, of course. Do I also need to thank, and I should thank, Alex Contel, sound engineer, and croqueta after my own heart. Indeed. I don't even know what that means.
We'd also like to thank programming coordinator and the invisibility behind all of the things that we do on this show, Les Jacobs.
And can we please give a round of applause to Sarah Gilbert and Nora Mestrich, the people who make this thing. Thanks, y'all.
And as always, thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, sir.
Special thanks.
Special thanks, clocks, because they tell you the time. Also special thanks, herbs. You will often find time amongst them.
Oh God.
It's not even a good dad joke. It's just words that sound alike.
Yep.
That was something.
I would like to thank your mom and all people who are phone line people. That is a really tricky job, and I commend your patience.
Yes. I want to thank Mark Rober, my favorite Instagrammer, my favorite YouTuber, who did a recent call center scam busting operation. If you haven't seen this on YouTube, you must see it. It is awesome.
Riveting.
So for every, visiting, they released live mice in these call centers that are scamming people out of their life savings. So for every good call center person, we need more of the bad ones to be taken out by people like Mark Rober and the FBI, because it's an awesome situation.
That is true. I'd also like to thank my mom for teaching me how to make dumplings.
Yo, shout outs to moms, for real. They teach us things. That's good. All right. I guess that's an episode. Another one in the can.
We did it. We did it.
Look forward to next time, friends.
See you later. Good luck with your dumplings and your micro justices.
Yes.
There are way more fun sounds when it's us and not Joey.
Now and as always, rubber baby buggy bumpers.